Hello, everyone. We are live and streaming across YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And this morning, I have a special guest with me. And this gentleman is joining me with a very interesting story and background. And the reason I have invited H.J. Chammas with me is because he has, achieved some great things. But I think his journey is probably one of the most interesting. And I think with all business owners, entrepreneurs, it's all very well looking at the end result, but we want to know the nitty gritty. So we're going to dive in and speak to HJ all about his award-winning books and bestsellers. He is a self-made employee millionaire, which I always find interesting because in the world of property, and I have property business too, everyone always wants to know, how do you get started? And I think, sharing that story really of, how it all comes about, because taking that first step, there'll be people listening this morning who are thinking, oh my goodness, I would love to start a property portfolio. And the fact that they're in a job, which is what you've done too, and you got financial freedom by investing in properties all across Asia, Dubai, Europe. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now so people can get a flavor for where you are, and then we can travel back in time and find out a little bit more about how you got there.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for having me on the show. It's a real pleasure. I've been watching a couple of the podcasts you've been doing, and they're awesome, really awesome. And I really feel privileged to be your guest here today. So going back to your question, so what am I doing now? I'm totally dedicated to three things. I am an active investor in rental properties, and that's my passion, as you can see from my books, and we can discuss later how I arrived there. I also have a coaching business, so I coach students through my courses, through one-on-one or through group coachings about how to make it from an employee or from a paycheck to paycheck, and I hold their hands so that I can walk them through a process so that they go to the other side of the table and become full-time investors. Mm-hmm. And number three, what I've realized is people with all of those things sometimes tend to be procrastinating, or they need some push. So I launched a new business called CasaBayt, which is a real estate crowdfunding platform. And in this business model, I allow people or wannabe investors, let's call them, to become passive investors. They don't need to have the headache of managing properties or doing this and that. We do everything for them. They just fund some properties, each one according to how much they could afford, so and we do the whole thing.
They can kind of take some money and dip into it without having the full responsibility of having to raise all the money to get a particular property. So
exactly,
this is popular. Now we're seeing so many businesses, aren't we, with crowdfunding, and I think it is a popular option because it makes property investing available to people in all ages, all stages. And I think one of the fears or the reasons that people don't get involved in property is that first step. Some people are renting, some people have got their own houses, they've got other commitments, and to raise that amount of money for another property just seems a bridge too far. So exactly. Tell us about your new book that's just launched on Amazon.
Yeah, so recently I launched a book called A Millionaire Mindset and Success Habits. And the idea came out of my engagement with my students. As I mentioned earlier, I have this coaching business, and it always intrigued me or surprised me that how much all of us, we were programmed. And I was also programmed. There's a kind of society programming. The program is in a way to always have fear, to think nothing could be achieved, to think things are impossible and all that kind of stuff. And this makes us always kind of on the defensive. So I call this is the villain inside of us. So we need to awaken the giant inside of us, to fight this villain inside of us, and to transform our mindset from a mindset of limiting beliefs to one of empowering beliefs. And this needs some people to wake up for it and to have a process for that.
And in terms of, growing up, etc., did you just naturally fall into this? Is this something that you thought you're always going to be doing? Would it be something that people kind of within your family expected? What was your background and your upbringing like?
Hell no. I actually, so as my background, so I think this is the first time I mentioned it on a podcast, or I think so. So I come from Lebanon, so I was raised in a country that was affected by a civil war, And it's like used to be like the Berlin Wall. Beirut used to be divided into West and East, where the Muslims and the Christians used to live, and it was really a devastating war. So then when I became a young adult, I really wanted to break out of all this kind of background, and I immigrated out of Lebanon. So I went out of Lebanon. I was practically poor. I have practically less than $100 in my pocket, and I just wanted to do something about it. So it was really a very tough road. And then I got recruited into the corporate world, and like any other person, I was doing the rat race from paycheck to paycheck, and nothing was happening. I was moving from a county to the other, because I was getting promoted, and the more I got promoted, the more my income increased, and the more my expenses increased. So I was always trapped. And not until I learned how to change my mindset and subscribe to a new set of empowering beliefs, and this is how really it was like the tipping point for me. What made me shift to the other side of the table and change my whole reality about personal finance and money.
Yeah, because I think it's such a common thing. I mean, there'll be so many people listening who are thinking exactly the same, that, they've moved them away, through their career, or they've started a business. And the thought of then, with all the other responsibilities and expenses they've got, then to be thinking about property. So biggest thing I guess everybody wants to know is, like, when did you buy your first property? How did it come about? How did you, make that first break?
Yeah, so at that time when I purchased my first property, I was staged in the Philippines. I was based in the Philippines in East Asia, and at that time I got to know a very famous guru, a real estate guru. He was into properties all over the world, with some factories in the Philippines, because they used to export to the US all those garments and fabrics. So I was really knocking his door every week. I want to get coached by you, and he never gave me time. So I was persistent, insistent, consistent, until one day he told me, yes, I'm gonna coach you. But of course, he put some conditions on me that I need to follow his rules and I need to take action. And sometimes he might ask me some crazy stuff, like I worked for him for 6 months and like a property manager without getting paid, and this was crazy. And people told me, how can you work for free? But then after I finished my stint, I understood that he was coaching me by putting me on the job and give me the chance to learn things while doing them instead of only theory. So, and at that time, so I took my first step. I invested in a 1-bedroom apartment in Manila, in a business district there in Makati, in the Philippines. And amazingly, I got it with almost nothing from my own pocket, less than 7% out of my own pocket, because I knew how to negotiate for properties. And there is an art for that, and science as well, So, and then I started to get about 46, if I recall, return on investment. And slowly, I started to add my next property and the next, and then it became kind of a habit. Like you have a cookie cutter, you just keep on doing the same stuff over and over. And always you're gonna have some mistakes, but you perfect your way when along the way,
So in terms of your portfolio now, how many properties have you got?
So I got, like, I'm not like a guru with thousands of properties, like what you hear about the US and stuff. No, I have less than 50, about 40 plus. But it's not about the number as much as it's about the value of them, because in some countries, like in Dubai, let's say, for a property, for a townhouse or for a villa, it costs $1 million per villa, per one unit, So whereas in some other parts of the world, it could be $100,000. So it's about, I think, the value of the portfolio, and most importantly, the way I see it is not about even how much you have as money in the bank, as much as it's important about your passive income. How wealthy are you? So if you stop working today, for how many days can you live throughout your life in your life? How can your passive income feed you in a way? Yeah. So and that's more important for me than the absolute number or the absolute figures.
And what do you think's been, the hardest time? I mean, you hear entrepreneur stories all the time. You hear about people's, woes of background, but along the way of obviously your property journey, what's been the hardest thing? Have you had times where you've, just thought, I have no wish to do this anymore, or, you've really worried about, pressing forward?
Of course, I remember on my first deal, with all the coaching I've been going through, uh, I really remember it was a rainy day in the Philippines. I was going in the car and just to go to the public notary and sign all those papers to own the property, and I was praying literally to just to have an accident so that I don't make it there. You know. Yeah. Then when I was really signing on those papers, my pen was shaking. I was shy about it because I was signing on something that was worth much more than what I have, because I told you I paid almost nothing from my pocket. So I was taking leverage, which is the bank loan. Yeah. So I was taking a loan, and I in my bank account I almost had zero. So it was much bigger than what I could afford, but I had to take this leap of faith because I knew that I was following the process.
So, what's your feelings around money? What's your attitude to money? Have you always, since that property going forward, had kind of the, over the fear? What do you feel about money now?
I think money is an enabler. It's only an enabler. I think what people need to know or realize in their life, they need to have a crystal clear clarity about what's their big why. What do they want out of life? And most often when people dig deeper and ask themselves a multiple layer of whys, it all boils down to family, to spirituality, to stress-free life, to happiness, to health. And what you realize that money is only an enabler for you to have more time, more choices, to do all that stuff that you want. And when you come to this peace of mind about money is not a number as much as it is an enabler to allow you to do all of that, and also then to pay it forward and start helping people out, your attitude change about it. And then you start to think about, the more I can help people out in my businesses, in my books, and whatever I'm doing, the more money will follow me. So you should not chase money as much money should be chasing you, because you have a mission, you have a vision. And this is, but in reality, really, you will see that when you change this kind of thinking, money will start to chase you, and it will become much easier than when you thought about it earlier.
And in terms of, obviously, the wealth side of things, I mean, you're very clear that, it's not down to money. It's about all of the different facets that we want within our lives. I mean, I think some people will find it difficult, when they're currently homeschooling kids and, they're in lockdown, to even think about taking something else on. And it almost feels like an overwhelm. What would be your advice? Like one thing that you could say to do today that could change their future in terms of the way that they're thinking about the money and the wealth?
I think it's all about self-education. So if that's something a person needs to achieve, they need to get educated about this thing. And now it's quite simple. Like example, watching a podcast like the one we're having now, watching a YouTube channel, reading books, online courses. So there are a lot of options out there. So it's about picking this course or this training that really suits you, and then start educating yourself before making the move. Because people think always, I'm going to educate myself when I want to make it. No, you have to be ready before that. And then when you get educated, you start to see opportunities that you never saw before, because now your mind is programmed in a different way. And people start to tell you, hey, you're lucky. But it's not about lucky, because I was prepared, and then I got opportunities. And as you know, luck is when opportunities meet the preparedness. So you're prepared and you get the opportunities, and you create your own luck in the whole process. So really educate yourself. It's all about education. And there are lots of options out there.
So as you have just launched your new book, would you kindly share a little bit about, or a section out of it, something, a tip or something that would entice us, just a little snippet, nugget that we can have from yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So the book basically speaks about how we all programmed about a certain, it's like a written program that you go to school, you get high grades, you graduate, you join the workforce, you get the high paying job, you get the pension, and life goes on beautiful. And then you wake up one day in your mid-40s, you're afraid of getting fired, and then you see a lot of others getting fired, and you say, oh shit, now it's too late for me. So the way it happens here, I take the audience or the readers through a journey of what are those limiting beliefs, and then I invite them to a deep thought. What's the really personal truth about each one has a personal truth about each of the limiting beliefs that we might have in our own mind. And once you acknowledge that and you have peace with your own personal truth, this is when you'll be able to transform this personal truth to an empowering belief, and the whole journey becomes whatever used to be a limiting belief becomes now your new empowering belief. So the book covers like 11 of those main limiting beliefs. Of course, there are much more, but in my experience, those 11 are the pillars. Like if you really get them right, it will be easier for you to unfold any other limiting beliefs you might be having.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's such an interesting thought, because when we think about the two types of mindset, it's so true. And we've all been in both probably at different times. And having a growth mindset, it almost changes the day-to-day to the excitement, because you've got this new focus and it's like a newfound opportunity. So I think it's true with everything. I mean, we're not saying, give your job up or do whatever, but, for each person, it will be different, won't it, in terms of what their true wealth, and their financial freedom is. So are you somebody sort of day to day that is, working 10, 12 hours? What's your day to day sort of life like?
By the way, that's an awesome question, because always people think when you're financially free or financially dependent,
you're lying in bed,
you go on the beach and all this. I think it's all crap, it's all bullshit. It doesn't happen. Yeah. The only difference is that before being financially dependent, I used to work for others. Mm-hmm. Now I work for I work for myself, for my students, for my audience, and I fulfill my mission in life. Which is adding value to people's lives, So in my usual day, but now I have the option of when to stop working, when to spend time with my family. Mm-hmm. I'm not limited to a certain time in the office. So my usual day is I wake up. I'm a very early man, by the way. I'm like I wake up at 6 a.m. every day before everyone else, and this is where I focus. I do a lot of the things that need focus and meditate and reflecting on things. And this goes till about 10. Then I take a break where I spend time with my wife, with my family. Now, during the pandemic, sometimes no school. So it's an opportunity to have this family bonding moments. And it goes like that until early afternoon. Then at around 2, after lunch, this is where I take another, a couple of hours, like 3 to 4 hours. And I focus on the other things where I can write an article, I can reply to my students, because as I told you on the coaching programs, I need to have my students on their deals as well. So I read all those deals, all this, it's like the operational stuff. Mm-hmm. And then also on my properties portfolio, I have a tenant that required maintenance here, some renewal there, a check bouncing there, over there. And you need to manage all those kind of stuff, which takes like half an hour or 50 minutes every day. But you need to plug them in your schedule, otherwise you will get derailed and you never do them.
Yeah, it's interesting because you chunk your time. I'm a big advocate of chunking time and doing the specific things in a particular time, like even doing emails and calls and things like that. I think when you open your day up to everything, you just become really very busy, and then it's very difficult to quantify what you've achieved. And I think sometimes just taking a step back and only allowing specific lengths of time to do jobs, you kind of get it done quicker, don't you? It's a weird thing. What do you see then for, the biggest challenge for, 2021? I think people are in this, we don't really know where we're at, what's happening. And, what do you think the biggest challenge for us will be over the next 12 months?
I think what people perceive as a challenge nowadays, personally, and some people think I'm out of my mind, I think is the biggest opportunity in life. Yeah. And I'll explain why. So basically, if you think about it, the vaccine is coming in, and I don't want to go on the story about all this conspiracy theories about the vaccine. I think the herd immunity is gonna happen in the next few months, within 2021. Now, what happened in reality, because of all those the economic crisis that happened due to the pandemic, prices of assets really dropped down. Mm-hmm. And if you think about property prices across the globe really plummeted. It went down. So now it's a golden opportunity. In some countries, the selling price is below cost. Can you imagine that? Below cost of construction, below cost of land. It's crazy. So now if you think of it as an opportunity, this is when you start to scoop properties, or you scoop any kind of asset you want. I don't want to invite everybody to be into properties, but if you think of it as an asset, it's below market price, it's below its value. It's time to scoop it. Because this is when people make their fortune. I made my in 2008 is when I entered into real estate. It was the global financial crisis. Everybody thought I'm crazy. Everybody was going out, I was going in, and now it's the same thing. I think it's an opportunity. If people know how to do it and when to do it in the right way, because a lot of people think, oh, I can do it by lowballing the here and there, but it's not like that. There's a process. There is a way to analyze things. It's all based on numbers, not on emotions, So I think it's an opportunity, not a challenge. You will decide if you think of it as a challenge, you're gonna sit at home and cry, I lost my job, what can I do, and all this stuff, or you can take it as an opportunity and you change your own reality.
It's a really interesting thought process, isn't it? Because there's a lot of people even today who will be going through a lot of hardship, on the back of it, from, losing loved ones and things like that. And it's changing that perception and thought process, isn't it? And then thinking, well, what can I take from this? It's a bit like every cloud, I suppose, has a silver lining, but it's moving forward and not staying in that zone too long. It's difficult. I mean,
exactly.
If you obviously, you've got 40 properties and things like that, you've got financial freedom, obviously before, probably what kept you up at night was probably more money motivated. What keeps you up at night now? What's your biggest worry?
My biggest worry is not being able to spend enough time with my family. Although I give them, if you compare me to me before, when I used to have a job, I rarely had time before that to my family. Now I have much more time, but still I have this kind of a good feeling that I want to spend much more time with them. And I feel that I might be missing those bonding moments and those joyful moments. So, and that's what my wife always tells me. So, okay, man, you've done it, you're there. So why are you still working? And I always tell her it's not about work as much as about adding value. And because it excites me, I'm able to help people out. If you imagine the number of emails and calls and whatever I receive about people thanking me, each time I read an email, sometimes with only 2 words, thank you, it gives me this pleasure, that, wow, I was able to change somebody's life. So,
and it's a passion, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
If you were to choose one thing then in your life that you would say that you are most proud of, what would be the thing that you would say?
I think on the personal level, it's my family. Actually, my wife. I'm proud of the moment that I met my wife. When I met my wife, and at that time I was really persistent, consistent. So she used to be in Lebanon. I used to be in the Philippines. Imagine, I used to fly every 3 weeks, 17 hours flight just to see her for 4 days. Imagine, So every 2 months I was doing the round of the world, if you think of it in a math way. So I'm so proud that I because I knew that she was the one, and I was really insistent that I work on that relation in spite of all distance, and because of her, it gave me all the motivation to do whatever I've done in my life. Because I was poor, she came from a wealthy family, so the bar was high, and I wanted to really to raise my standards and do all this stuff, so that at one day in time, her parents wouldn't think of me that I'm no one. So I wanted to prove that, and this was a big motivation. I'm very proud of her, of my son Ryan. I love him a lot. I love her a lot. And then, of course, on the business side, is my book publishing, because with books I can reach more people. And the more people I reach, the more people I can impact, the more lives I can impact. And this really gives me a lot of, as I told you, as a pleasure, because I'm able to add value to people's lives.
So for my final question, because I'm sure people will be thinking about, books, podcasts, things like that. How did you get your first book out? Did you go the normal publishing contract route? Did you self-publish? How did you get into it?
Yeah, so, I never intended to be an author, by the way. So what happened, when the first time we knew that my wife was pregnant, we didn't know at that time even the gender, something inside of me pushed me to open my laptop and just write down all the lessons I went through in my life. So that, because I was in my early 40s at that time, and I thought maybe when my son or daughter will be 18 plus, maybe I'm not going to be there for them. So I want to write for them something that could be the lessons in life and how I was able to make it from an employee to financially independent. Then, I was writing on the laptop. One time, my wife saw the manuscript. I was opening the laptop. She got intrigued, and she called me. I was out of home. And she told me, "Are you out of your mind? Are you stingy? What the hell, Joyce? What's happening?" So she told me, "You have a great something, and why aren't you sharing it with the world?" I told her, "Joyce, I don't know how to do it. I'm not an author. It's just notes for our kid. That's it." So she challenged me, and then I approached Penguin Random House, and they have Partridge Publishing as part of the sister company. I send them the manuscript out of, just I want to to let her off my back. Okay, I'm gonna do it, and don't worry about it. I'm gonna do it. So I sent the manuscript without anything really on my mind, and I was surprised. I received a call from them. I was at that time in Dubai. I received the call. They told me, "Wow, we see this as the Rich Dad, Poor Dad for the 2020s. It's an amazing book, and we want to publish it." And I was surprised, and this is how it all started. I call myself an incidental author, not really a planned author.
But you know what? So many people are the same thing. I mean, I did my book back in 2019. I just put my proposal out to one publisher. So, I was blooming lucky to get it. But mine sat in their spam folder for 6 months until they get back to me. So, yeah, I mean, if there was one lasting takeaway that our listeners and viewers can have, what would that be? One lasting takeaway that you would like them to remember?
I think we need to believe in ourselves. If we have a vision, if we know what's our big why, what drives us in our lives, believe in yourself, educate yourself, change your mindset from a limiting mindset to an empowering one, and just make it happen. Stop doing what I call the captivity of passivity. And sorry, I need to throw it in as a word. Excuse. So I call it in our circle of friends. We call it intellectual masturbation. So people think a lot and they never take action. They think of that date, they never go on the date. They think about money, they never take action to do the money. So stop this I am and really start educating yourself and take action and change your reality.
See, I think the thought process of the why, I don't think for me that's ever changed. My why, I keep going through what is my why, and it evolves. And I think that is a natural thing. Yeah. So each and every day, my why is slightly different because there's changing factors and environmental factors that come into it. And I think from lockdown, I think a lot of people have taken action and stepped forward, but a lot of people have come a little bit paralyzed by the overwhelm of it because the monotony of the day to day, I think, has kind of got to people now. So if they can go and think about their why, how would they plot this out? Do you recommend them people writing it down, thinking about it? What's the best way just to take some headspace to do this?
Yeah, so look, I think they need to write it down, and they need to, because when you think about your big why, the things you want in life, you start to categorize them. You find a category about family, a category about wealth, one about career, one about spirituality and helping your church, your community, one about your success. And you start to you put them into categories. And then when you start to link them together, you'll be amazed that what comes on top will be your personal stuff, not the money. And then your money will become an enabler. And to help to do that, by the way, I would like to offer the audience a free book that they can download. And the first chapter of this book is really, it takes them through the big why and the whole process. This book is a #1 bestseller, by the way, but I'm giving it away for free now. It's called The 4 Stages of Building Wealth. And it could be downloaded from www.employeemillionaire.com/the 4 stages.
Perfect. We'll put this onto the link onto the podcast as well on dawnmcgruer.com. And we'll put, when the videos go out, obviously, and the podcast, there'll be links in both. So, make sure that if you want to get it, grab it now and get working on it and make a difference. Do something different today that makes you feel positive that you've taken a little bit of control. So if people want to go and find you, where can they find you on social media?
So on my social media, my handle is HJ Chammas, which is on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn as well. On Facebook, it's called REI Cashflow. So real estate investing for cash flow, REI Cashflow. Okay. And On my social media platforms, I really always write articles, a lot of free stuff. Sometimes I throw in free books as well, free courses, because it's just to keep the momentum going and really trying to reach out to as many people as possible and to really help them out.
Perfect. Well, you're a member of our group as well. So if people want to come and chat to you and network and ask any questions, you just need to go to Facebook to Dawn McGruer's Marketing, Motivation and Mindset group, and you can come and join the party there. So we have all of our podcast guests in there, and also you can watch the replay there too. So thank you so much for joining us. What are you going to be doing for the rest of the day?
So now I'm gonna go out there, play with my son. You know, I need to act like a small boy, like a 4 years old boy, and play with him with the toys and the Lego and building stuff. Just do kid
That sounds
stuff.
great.
You know? Yeah, I love it.
Oh, well, have a super day, and thank you so much. And I cannot wait to get my hands on the free copy myself. I'm going to go and do some activities as well. So thank you and take care. And again, we will hopefully see you soon in the group.
Thanks for having me. Thanks a lot. Ciao. Bye.